Welcome to this podcast. It's making me thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans.
This is episode 106.
Today's guest is a two-time Tony Award nominee for teaching excellence in the theater arts. She has had an accomplished career as an actress, appearing in hundreds of TV commercials, more than 50 TV shows and films, including Naked Gun, 33 1/3, Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice, Santa Barbara, SeaQuest DSV, and of course, she played George's girlfriend, Diane DeConn, the It Girl, in the classic season 5 episode of Seinfeld, The Marine Biologist. Please welcome Rosalind Allen. Rosalind, thanks for joining.
Hey. Hi, good to see you.
Rosalind, this is great. I mean, The Marine Biologist, one of the best episodes of all time. So take us back 28 years ago, believe it or not. This week, The Marine Biologist aired. So
Wow.
what can you... Yeah, wow. So what can you tell us? I know Tony mentioned a lot of things you were in, also did a little Matlock, but 94 was a big year for you. Obviously, a lot of movies, a lot of shows, but how'd the role of Diane come about? Was it an audition? I'm just curious, a little bit about how the role came about.
It was, and 90s were very busy for me, but I remember Mark, the casting director, brought me in, and it was a relationship I had in business sense during the 90s. He was very generous with me in terms of bringing me in for anything that I was right for. And I remember that particular audition, it was like a late in the day kind of audition, late at night. I mean, 6 o'clock at night kind of vibe. I remember feeling very late and at the end of a very long day. And I don't know how many people they saw for the role, but when I auditioned, there was only one other woman there and myself. And she was a recognizable top model, and you're going to ask me who it was, and I'm not going to remember. I have no idea. She was just a beauty, and I instantly told myself, oh, it's hers, but I'll go through this, and meet everybody and be grateful. So I was very surprised when I got cast, and I think I got cast that night. I think I knew before I got home, so that was nice.
Very
and everybody
cool.
was there. I think Jerry was in the room, Larry was in the room, Mark obviously was in the room. Probably the director, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what I remember. I remember thinking, I'm not going to get this.
Well, we're all yeah, I mean, I think you were perfect for the role. We were just talking about it earlier. I mean, the first scene with Jerry at the ATM, I do that every time I'm at ATM now. In my head, I'm racing the person next to me, processing. And me and Diane DeConn, both Queens College alums. I got my master's degree at Queens College. I thought that was pretty funny. But
That's awesome.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about your first kind of day on the set, your first kind of week there, getting your feet wet, meeting everyone. Had you known any of the actors beforehand? We've heard so many great stories about how welcoming they are and how unselfish they are. Just trying to get your take on kind of the overall vibe. Because this is season 5, it's pretty much the peak Seinfeld. I mean, and you're walking into that. You are a seasoned actress at that point, but still, it must have been, it had some feeling out period. Yeah.
Yeah, they were awful, just awful people. Actually, it's a strange episode in that I wasn't on the set. Trying to think when was I on the set at all? I wasn't on the set. We did locations. We shot the beach stuff in Malibu at Point Dune, and the ATM scene was outside of stage. I think it's stage 6 at CBS. There was a location in the studio lot that was an ATM setup, and we shot that there. And my other scenes were at the beach. So I was on set for the audience taping. I got introduced to the audience, and I was able to see they show the playback for the audience of the scenes that we shot earlier that week. Mm-hmm. And I remember that particular episode being very memorable, that, the taping day with the live audience too, because it must have been right up close to the holidays, because Larry David and the producers, they all brought in this incredible gospel choir when we wrapped that night, to kind of as a gift to the crew and the cast. So that was super cool.
Wow.
So I did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It aired in February. So yeah, maybe it was around late December where you guys shot it.
Yeah. And I got all my scenes with Jason, and he was so lovely. so gracious. And so what I love about him was he was just interested in you. He just seemed authentically present, like he really took the time to see you and be curious about who you were, which is a nice gift in the business and a gift in life when somebody takes the time to, to pay attention. So he was lovely. And then I met Jerry for the ATM scene, and he was great. I never got to meet anyone else to work with, except Julia Dreyfus and I shared the same manager then. So I met her in other ways, but not on this, not to work with.
Oh, wow. So yes.
Separate.
Yeah, that was an interesting episode. Yeah, because there was a lot of scenes kind of offset, but there were some scenes with Jerry, obviously his apartment in Monks with the famous scene at the end that we could touch on. But so when you went in, like, what did your agent like? So you got the script, you heard it's called The Marine Biologist. Like, what was your kind of thought process? How did you prepare for this role of the it girl?
I find that for most people, most actors, you just try and bring yourself to the part as much as you can. That's always the great starting point, because typically as someone that's coming in as a guest star, you don't know a whole lot. You know about the success of the show. You have a sense of the tone of the show because you've been lucky enough to be able to watch it. But you're not given a whole lot of information other than what you can imagine a brief description would be. So the best bet any actor ever has is just to trust that there's nobody else like you specifically, so that maybe you will be right for this. And so I just try to walk in as myself the best I can and try to leave the nerves at the door, and just have fun. I didn't know a whole bunch, you never do. I mean, it's rare that you get a whole script, that the context of your part. It's, you just trust the pages and you just make some strong choices and you go for it.
Were you, obviously this was season 5. Were you a fan of the show prior? Like, did you kind of know every character? And
yes, very much. Yeah, I did. I was very much, I love the show. I mean, it was the show, and I'm just so thrilled for them that it's still a show that everybody loves so much. But then it was just the show everybody watched. It was just really fun. And I was so grateful to have the job, because not only did I get to work with these people that I admired, but it's a job that got me other jobs afterwards. It was a job that people watch the show, they love the show, they see you all of a sudden you're walking into offices that you didn't get to walk into before. So that was nice.
Yeah, I would imagine. And then that's kind of one of my questions too, because I know you mentioned earlier you're the director of theater arts at the Oaks Christian School, and I mean, obviously you've had a long career, but we're Seinfeld based, so I was curious if there was anything from your Seinfeld experience. We've heard so many stories about the way Jerry and Larry ran that show, and the way, they kind of, other guest stars have taken things they've learned from being on that show, with them throughout the career. And in your case, it would be throughout into your teaching career even. So I'm wondering, how often do you bring Seinfeld into your when you're, educating students?
I guess what is true, Seinfeld keeps being brought to me, which is really nice.
Right.
Like, parents, students, they discover it and say, oh my gosh, it's you, and you were that. And it's always a nice little bonding moment. But I think what the experience itself taught me, just as an actor being there as well, is that just watching them work, is that it just seemed like every time they did a take, it was fresh. Like there was no repetition of what they just did before. It was like there's a little bit of unpredictable quality to it, which I just love. And I love the lesson that, specifically to answer your question, that I can bring to my students is, just be in the moment and just see what happens, and just go on the ride and not be afraid to just try something else. Because what's the worst that could happen is that it's awful. And then you still tried something, and it's great to be brave, I guess, and be courageous.
Very good.
This show is kind of in the lore of Seinfeld history. Was there anything that didn't make the cut? I know you obviously had your scene at the Mac machine or ATM, and obviously the beach scene with George. Was there anything you did that didn't make the cut? I was just curious if.
No, that's a good question. I don't remember shooting anything that didn't make the final cut, because it was only really 3 scenes: the ATM scene, the walk along the beach.
There's the story about the fake whale. Does this have any merit to it? Do you remember any of this where they tried to actually have like the Free Willy whale or something and they ended up not using it, or they CGI'd a whale? We've read this here and there, but we don't know if it's like a true story. Like, is there anything to that? Do you remember any of that discussion?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, not something that was ever brought up in conversation when I was around. I never heard about that.
So they didn't shoot a scene with Jason actually in the water, like on top of anything or nothing like that,
No,
right? It was all just...
No, my last, that shot of him walking into the ocean, they just kept letting him walk. He just walked and walked and walked and then called cut. I think he got into his thigh height of water before they called cut. I'm just getting over a cold. I'm going to cough. Excuse me. Not COVID, just a cold.
All good. So for me, you had some pretty memorable lines in the show. I'm curious what yours is. The little one you said to Jerry always gets me, calling George a goof off. I don't know. So
yeah, George. Yeah, such a goof off.
For some reason, like that whole episode, like Seinfeld, they did a lot of kind of risque episodes, but the Marine Biologist was pretty G-rated, even in that line you said goof off. Like, it's just so corny and silly, but funny. But I was just curious, what were some of your, again, it was only 2 scenes, but what were some of your favorite lines from that episode?
Well, that's definitely one of them. But, people always ask me to say the line of, save the whale, George. That comes up always. And that's probably the one that sticks out the most because I'm always asked to repeat it.
Yeah. I mean, this we ranked this number 6. It could easily be number 1. I think it's many people's favorite episode. I know I've heard Jerry in interviews say that the final scene of the reveal of the golf balls is probably his favorite, part of the whole show. You had mentioned, you got to be on set during the showing of The Audience. What was that scene in particular like when they revealed that, when he reveals the golf ball at the end? I mean, the response from the live audience, was it palpable on set that everyone kind of knew this was going to be a defining moment? Or, I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. I do remember that even 28 years ago. I remember how focused Jason was and how he just seemed to know that it was just so well written. It was just so well thought through. And so there was just such a joy in being able to deliver those lines. And he had such conviction and such confidence in telling that story. I remember so clearly how proud he seemed when it was over, like how it's just that that feeling, that energy, that chemistry that comes off something just clicking just right. And it just feeling like just the perfect button for this story. And it was hysterical. I mean, everybody was dying. It was just so well delivered.
Clearly probably the most famous monologue the show's ever had. And you can't not help but think of you when after that, he talks about how he told you the truth and you guys are both crying. He said, you were the most beautiful thing in the world, blah, blah, blah. And then when he told you the truth, you said, go to hell. It's like, I'm just picturing Diane DeConn doing that to him, which just, you can't help but laugh, right?
Right. Great. Just
so you were in so many iconic shows, movies we talked about, and clearly Seinfeld fandom is kind of at another level. Obviously, we're talking about it now. And we know a couple of years back, you went out and threw out the first pitch for the Brooklyn Cyclones game. I knew you threw out a Titleist ball.
That was my husband, by the way. That was his idea.
Oh, yeah?
It was.
That's a funny idea.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's not like, I guess compare kind of some of the things you've been in versus Seinfeld, where you're only in one episode, yet, there's a special place in Seinfeld fans' hearts for you, clearly. I'm just curious, like, being across so many genres, like, what is it about Seinfeld fans versus any other type of fan that you've come across over these years?
Well, it just seems timeless. That's what I really appreciate it. I mean, I was a young girl when I did it, and yet I felt, I instantly was rewarded and for that role just because of the opportunities I then got for work, and then just the the joy that people have in just reminiscing about these episodes and remembering their favorite episodes. And it just seems like time and time again, The Marine Biologist is everybody's favorite. And I just feel really lucky that I got to be part of it. It's rare that, I mean, I know there's a lot of classic television out there and classic film, but just to have a small part of one, it's just cool because it's just a gift that keeps giving, which I love. And I got, my favorite story of getting a job after that was Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks was casting his movie that he wrote called Mother with Debbie Reynolds at the time. And he had just seen it and brought me in to his office, asked me to sit in his office and read this scene at the that ties the end of the movie together. And I was given that role, which was so fun, in the role and playing this girl that, the girl of his dreams at the end of the movie, called Mother. And so I'm always, that's just one of those Hollywood stories that, doesn't happen very often. I'm sure it happens to a lot to the stars of the world, but for the people just building a career, it was a really cool moment. Really cool.
That is amazing. That's really cool to hear. His brother was obviously very much involved in Curb, and rest in peace to him too. But that's a really cool story. I mean, I would have to imagine, like you mentioned earlier, it does open doors once you're seen. And it wasn't a small role in that show either. It was, you were the it girl. Yeah. So it sounds like though that you had your interaction on set was mainly during the day of the shoot, because your scenes were on location. But what was there? Did you still get a sense of the camaraderie and we've heard from other guest stars that when they go out to lunch or at the wrap party for the season, things like that everyone is very welcoming. I know you'd mentioned and Julia, but did you cross any paths with Larry David or Michael Richards or anything like that, as far as maybe Tom Sharonis? We're big fans of his. I don't know what it was like shooting those beach scenes on location. Just curious if there's any stories that we didn't ask, we didn't touch on because we didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah, I wish there was a whole bunch more to tell you, but I do know that, Tom, I really like Tom, the director, and Larry. They both, they just have a lovely quality about making you feel like they are just so excited that you're there, that they just feel like they've cast the perfect person for this role, for this story. They're thrilled that you're there. They make you feel like your ideas are great ideas. They make you feel like you're part of this collaboration and let's try that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And so that I really appreciate, because it goes really fast. It's 1 week of work, right? You go, you come in, you do a table read. Did we even do a table read for this one? That's a really good question. We may have just gone right into shooting the scenes on different locations. And then, the live audience comes in at the end of the week. And then it's over. So it's really fast, and you have to make yourself comfortable or, insert yourself really quickly into a really well-oiled machine where everybody has these really long seasoned relationships. And Tom and Larry specifically, and Jason, really went out of their way to make me feel like, this is exactly where I need to be.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. They love to make the guest stars shine, but they also like to make them feel welcome. And this was an interesting episode, a classic, yet it wasn't written by Larry David. I think he had his hands in it for sure. Mm-hmm. But Ron Haig and Charlie Rubin actually wrote this. Were they on set? Or is it kind of Larry's show, Larry and Tom Sharonis? I'm just curious to kind of the vibe when not that you were on set, but you know what I mean? Like at the ATM and the beach scenes, was it kind of Larry running the show or Tom Sharonis, or the writers have involved?
I never saw that. If I saw the writers, I wasn't introduced to the writers. So
interesting.
Typically the writers are there and they might be at the monitor and they might have some notes and they would pass those on to Tom if they were there. And Tom would then share those with the actor or Larry. But I don't remember the writers specifically being there.
Was Larry at the beach scene?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Or was that dubbed in,
He's the one who yells.
Yeah.
I think that was dubbed in. I'm not remembering Larry at the beach. Oh my gosh, you guys.
I know.
When you watch that scene, it's a small little minor detail, but you could clearly see like the Santa Monica Pier, like in the background when you guys are walking. I just noticed that. I've seen the episode probably 600 times, and I just noticed the pier this last time I watched it.
The pier in the back? I've never noticed that.
Right to be like when you guys are you and Jason are walking in the background, you can like see the pier out there, and then you like walk towards the camera and you don't see it anymore, but for like a second you see it.
Because we shot at Zuma Beach, and so the pier isn't.
There's definitely something back there.
Yeah,
but that was always funny to me. So I mean, that was the one thing I wanted to know about that fake whale, but it sounds like they didn't. It was just one of those rumor things that no one knows about.
I wasn't privy to it, you know.
So, Rosalind, this show was seen by 35 million people that Thursday night.
Wow.
I'm like curious, like when you're teaching students like the theater or like auditioning, like you knew this was big going in, right? I'm just trying to like, how did you calm your nerves, like even at the audition? And you've done a ton of work, and obviously that helped prepare you for this. But you know, let's be honest, Matlock and the Hogan family weren't even 35 million, right? People on a Thursday night. No disrespect, I love both of those shows, but this was kind of the it show, right? So I was curious, like, how do you prepare for that mentally, emotionally, the whole thing?
I think naively, you know, I think sometimes you don't know what you don't know, in the sense that I don't think I go into a show thinking, oh, this is so big that because if I did that, I think I would get nervous and I would start second guessing. I think for me, and what I would always tell my students too, it's just about how can I tell this story the best I can? How can I tell the truth about who this person is, and be as believable as possible? I mean, it was definitely, don't get me wrong, definitely a highlight of my life, of my career. Something I will never forget and I'll always be grateful for. But in the moment, on the day, it's like I'm just focused on doing a good job. You know, you just want to be there. You just want to not miss it. You don't want to, you know, I wish, I would have loved my ongoing work as an actor to continue on and on and on, you know, but I took 20 years away to teach, because it's the business can be so harsh on women getting older. But I've re-entered recently, so that's fun at my silver season.
Yeah, that's right. You were just recently in something, right? In this year, right? 2021.
I'm doing a couple of small roles in films, and
very cool.
I'm just dipping my toes back in the last few months.
Well, that's exciting.
It's just fun. I mean, it's a whole different genre now, obviously, because I'm now the age that I am, and I have no problem I let my hair go silver during COVID lockdown. I thought I'm just going to try it and see what happens, and it is what it is. So
yeah, no, very cool.
Work for grandmas, right?
I think we think you look great, and we really are enjoying this conversation, so we appreciate it. I'm actually, so I mean, I would assume that the work you've done teaching was fulfilling and rewarding. It sounds like, especially it sounds like it's incredible. I mean, especially with the Tony Award nominations, and I mean, it just sounds like you're doing an amazing job there. But we're definitely looking forward to seeing you, out there, like you said. So
thank you.
Cool.
You're awesome. So a girl from New Zealand, how does she end up in Hollywood? How'd that happen? What inspired you?
I always knew that I wanted to, and I finished college young in New Zealand, university in New Zealand, and I just said I want to go and just try it because I don't want to be 40 years old one day and wonder if I could have. I remember having those specific thoughts, so I bought myself a ticket, and that took me to LA, and I had $1,500 and a hiker's backpack, literally. And I stopped over in Hawaii, my first stop, and I got off the plane for about 3 months and worked there, made some more money. met some people that lived in Orange County, and they invited me to come and stay with them. And when I got to Orange County, I just started to try and figure out how it all worked. Like, I remember being taken into LA for the very first time and having a notebook on the back seat of my car, looking for a billboard or something, like, call this number if you want to be an actor, or, you know, I had no idea how any of it worked. I'd done a lot of theater in New Zealand, done a lot of performing arts, but I didn't know anyone in LA, didn't know anybody in the business. And so I then invested in some acting classes. And very quickly, because I was from New Zealand, I think too, and I was super young, I just had people wanting to represent me. So I jumped in, and commercials were highly successful for me right away. That's how I got into the union and just started working nonstop. I would just book something every week and just keep it going. And then, you know, as you saw in the 80s, you know, I did All My Children, and I did a lot of those. You mentioned Matlock and Night Riders and all those classic old shows. And I just got my legs doing that kind of work.
Don't forget Jake. Don't forget Jake and the Fat Man.
Jake and the Fat Man.
Well, it's funny. Jerry mentioned them on the DVD. I'm curious if you guys had any banter about Jake and the Fat Man or not.
No.
It was always beating Seinfeld in the ratings early on, and they would bring the ratings to like Jerry and Larry and be like, Jake and the Fat Man is beating you guys. And they were all excited when they finally beat Jake and the Fat Man, like season 3 or something like that. So it was an interesting tidbit that you had been on that show right before Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, no, yeah, it was good. Joe Penny, right? That's his name. Wasn't the actor that was in the show Joe Penny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great show. I mean, all these shows you're on, it's just a trip down memory lane. I mean, you should be really proud. I mean, obviously we love Seinfeld, but you've had an incredible career for sure. I was Naked Gun. So what? I mean, you work with some funny people. Well, you know.
Well, that was nothing. I mean, you think about Naked Gun. That
was right. You know, OJ right there, right? What year was that? 94?
It was Naked Gun in 90s, was it? Oh gosh, I lose track of dates. But that was such a small part. I got OJ Simpson was in that, right? OJ. Right. I did a pilot with him as well, right before the murders. I did a pilot with him called Frogman that they shot in Puerto Rico.
Really?
Right before, yeah.
And his mindset was.
Well, apparently that's where he bought the knife, is what I was told. But I mean, I don't know if that's true. I just heard that from people that worked on the show.
Whoa.
But anyway, but he was on that show. But my piece on Naked Gun was, again, just filmed. And then then it aired in the film on a television screen. I played a soap opera actress. So it was, you know, it's an itty bitty little thing. Super fun to say you did it. But yeah, itty bitty. Really itty bitty.
For sure.
What's her name that passed away?
Anna Nicole Smith. Anna Nicole Smith.
Anna
They're doing a biop of her, actually, a biopic of her. That's they just announced. That was a sad story. Yeah,
very sad story.
So, Rosalind, what can we expect this year from you? We'd love to hear what you're working on, the teaching, the pickleball. What can we look out for Rosalind?
Well, you know, just wish me good luck. I really am dipping my big toes in there right now. My full foot will be in there soon. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm just starting an Instagram account for silver season. And I'm at the Real Rosalind 23 on Instagram. I would love to build a following but that's how the business works now. Casting people like to see who's interested in you. And if I could have all my friends out there support me in this journey, that would be kind of fun. And then I'll make all my announcements on Instagram when things happen. I'm definitely starting to audition. You know, everything's online still, which is so weird.
Yeah, that must be odd.
It's very strange because you don't really get a real feeling for someone unless you're in the room with them. So doing things on tape is definitely a challenge, but I'll get there eventually.
Well, listen, the camera loves you, so you're going to be great, and we can't wait to see what you do next, and we will support you, and there's thousands and thousands of Seinfeld fans listening to us, so we'll promote the heck out of you, and we just can't thank you enough. You are the it girl, Rosalind, and it's been an honor talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Guys. I really appreciate you being interested.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, and we're definitely
stay in
pulling for you.
All the best.
Thank you so much.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Have a great night.